Well, good morning. What a day. I've only been here for a few hours, but I've learned one thing. It's a great day to be a Wildcat. So I want to thank Cameron for that generous introduction. I want to thank President Huddleston for all he has done to make this a great institution. To the members of the faculty and administration as well, distinguished guests, graduates, and family and friends, thank you for honoring me with this invitation. I was particularly pleased to be asked this year, 2016, the 150th anniversary of the founding of the University of New Hampshire, what you Wildcats call the sesquicentennial for short. Now, I expect I'm the first speaker to appear here in months who is not running to be elected President of the United States in 2016. 2016, think about it. That means 2020 is only 4 years away. So what do you think? What do you think? 2020, the man, the year, the vision. Get it? 2020 vision. Too soon? Before anything else, certainly before any more attempts at humor, let me acknowledge my fellow honorary degree recipients, Kate Clifford Larson and Colonel Colleen Ryan, both here. And as well as this year's 2 recipients of the Granite State Award. Whoops, that'll be hard to... Improv. It's John Harrigan and Jameson French. I want to congratulate both of them and everyone. But let me begin where every commencement talk should begin, by acknowledging the graduating class, in this case, the class of 2016. Congratulations to you all, one and all. And it was good of you to stand up and thank all those who helped make it possible. In many ways, this diploma you're about to receive is a shared one. Now, I learned something else. I learned that applications to UNH are at an all-time high, as are both GPAs and SAT scores. So, class of 16, be thankful you got admitted when you did. So let me also let you in on a secret. Giving commencement talks is fun. Just about everybody's in a good mood. Students, you're relieved. Parents, you're proud. Professors, you're surprised. Only the speaker feels pressure. And truth be told, all he or she really has to do is to keep it short. I knew you'd agree with that part. So speaking of truth, I feel like that relative invited to the wedding who, when you see, you can't quite figure out what's the connection, why he or she is there, who they might be related to. So let me help you. I am UNH once removed. My wife, Susan Mercandetti, who's the editor-at-large of Random House and the former vice president of ABC News, she's the class of 1975. But she's only one of the impressive UNH graduates I know. There's Ann Finucane, who's the vice president of Bank of America. There's Dave Cote, who spoke here a few years ago, who's the chairman and CEO of Honeywell. And there was my friend Mike Kelly. Mike Kelly was a gifted writer and journalist whose life so sadly ended, was cut short on a battlefield in Iraq. So members of the class of 2016, you are joining a talented group with a great reputation, and if I may be permitted, an uncharacteristic moment of nurturing and of inspiration, don't screw it up. Now, as many of you are well aware, the typical commencement speech tends to focus on wisdom or what passes for wisdom. So in case you are counting on hearing such a speech today, let me urge you not to fear failure, to take the road less traveled by, and when you do, remember to focus as much on the journey as the destination. There, you've heard it. To paraphrase the great Rabbi Hillel, the rest is commentary. But I've decided to speak about something else. I want to linger on the word commencement. It's about beginnings, not ends. So while you are ending your 4 or 5 or 6 years on this beautiful campus, you are just starting out. When it comes to your education, you're closer to the end of the beginning than the beginning of the end. So think of it this way. Let me give you an image. One model of education is the filler-up approach. You pull into the gas station of the mind, plunk down $2.25 a gallon, you fill up the tank, and you drive down the highway of life. The problem is that even a full tank of intellectual gas won't get you all that far. You need maybe 50 years worth of fuel. There's no possible way one tank will suffice, even if you happen to be driving a Tesla. Now, this may not seem obvious, but think about it. Imagine those who graduated 50 years ago, the class of '66. No one majored in climate change or environmental studies. No one majored in computer sciences. A tablet was something you swallowed when you had a headache. My point is that it's impossible to anticipate what knowledge and what set of skills you'll need in 25 years, much less in 50. So let me give you an alternative model to thinking about education, what I would call the topper-off model. You start out with what you received here, that quality education you received here at UNH, but then in a few years, you pull into that intellectual gas station and you add some fuel. And then you do it again a few years later, and then again. You may need to top off your intellectual tank as many as 10 or more times in the course of your career, in which you hold 10 or more jobs, or because one of those jobs changes significantly while you're in it. So my purpose is not to get you to think about a lifetime of education. On a day you were probably thinking you were done with it, at least for a while. But I do want to suggest that a piece of your education to come, that the piece of that education be about the world. Now, I expect this suggestion comes as little surprise, coming as it does for me, the President of the Council on Foreign Relations, but let me make the case. Let me try to make the case for it all the same. Most of you, I expect, are Americans. But that means you're just 4% of the world's population. 4 out of every 100 people alive on this planet we share. And this country, for all its wealth, for all its productivity, represents under 25%, under 1/4 of global economic output. You are entering a world increasingly defined by globalization, which involves flows that are vast and fast across borders of just about everything you can imagine, from viruses, both computer and physical, to carbon, to drugs, to guns, to emails, to dollars, to iPhones, and the apples that you eat. You're also entering a world characterized by increasing disarray. There's a large gap between the challenges posed by globalization and the responses that have been generated to meet them. Meanwhile, we live in a world in which great power rivalry is reviving, the Middle East is unraveling, the atmosphere is warming, and most economies are slowing. So why do you, the graduates, need to know about all this? So let me suggest 3 reasons why this is relevant. First, it can and will affect you directly. Terrorism, climate change, Ebola and Zika, or North Korea that will soon be able to put nuclear warheads on missiles that can reach the United States, all have the potential to affect and change your lives. I expect until recently, there were those in Europe who saw little reason to understand the situation in Syria. But that was before terrorism and a wave of refugees arrived on Europe's shores. My point is straightforward. The world is not Las Vegas, and what happens anywhere rarely stays there. I want to emphasize this because many Americans don't seem to appreciate this link, the link between what happens abroad and what happens here at home. A recent poll conducted by Pew Research revealed that a majority of Americans want this country to deal with its own problems and let others deal with their problems. A plurality of Americans think we're doing too much overseas. But without this country's lead in the world's problems will grow in number and they will grow in severity. And then it will be only a question of when and not if the world's problems become our own. Again, I want to stress what happens in the world can and will affect your life. Prepare for it. Second, the world can and will affect your livelihood. This effect can be for the worse. Foreign competition can and at times does lead to the disappearance of American jobs. But the world can also affect your lives for the better. Foreign markets, for example, can and do support American jobs, some 10 million of them, as it turns out. And while we're talking of jobs, don't forget about serving in the military or the Foreign Service or intelligence agencies or the government, or NGOs or business or journalism. All these jobs require a depth and a breadth of knowledge about the world. Get it. Third, you'll wear many hats in the course of your life, but none of these hats will be any more critical than the hat you will wear as a citizen. There will always be questions as to what policies and what candidates to support. It's not easy to know how to think about trade or Yemen or China, not to mention Ukraine or Venezuela or Nigeria or immigration. But it's essential. It's essential to be informed. And being educated means knowing about the world, about where we are and how we got here. Thomas Jefferson is frequently cited as saying that an enlightened, educated citizenry is essential to our survival as a republic. It's your obligation to yourself, it's your obligation to the person sitting next to you and to your fellow citizens to learn what you can about global issues. Do it. Where can you go for this? There's no substitute for reading, be it biographies, histories, serious magazines, from The Economist and The Atlantic Monthly to The New Yorker and Foreign Affairs. The same holds for newspapers such as the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, or the Financial Times. There are a few television shows worth watching and a few websites worth visiting, including Vox, War on the Rocks, and CFR.org, which really is the best single site about what is going on in the world, even if it happens to be the site of the organization that I'm fortunate enough to lead. But remember when you visit these places, remember when you read, remember when you watch, remember when you listen, that this is an age of narrowcasting, not broadcasting. And much of what is out there is designed to persuade more than it is to inform. You will have to be your own editor. You will have to be your own analyst. And while you're at it, commit to spending some time trafficking in ideas and in ways of thinking that challenge your own. The good news is that there's also campuses and courses and advanced degrees, along with an increasing array of online choices. UNH need not be, UNH hopefully will not be, your last university experience. And do travel, or better yet, find a way to live abroad for some time. Let me tell you a little bit about my life. I was a comparative religion major who went over to Israel to work on an archaeological dig. Pretty quickly, I figured out I wanted more from life than being able to identify the lineage of a piece of broken pottery. Before I knew it, I was a Middle Eastern Studies major. I went on to do graduate work in international relations, and then I found myself working in government. My point is not that you should want to pursue a career that resembles mine. As a matter of fact, you probably should not do that if you intend to pay off your student loans anytime soon. But rather, that there are a few better ways to learn about the world, and there are a few better ways to learn about yourself than by experiencing it firsthand and up close. All of which brings me back to the purpose of the day, which is to recognize and celebrate your hard-earned commencement. Again, congratulations. Congratulations, you deserve this and more. But remember my point to look at commencement as an intellectual and personal journey, one that begins today. Okay, make that tomorrow after tonight's parties. And that it should be an intellectual and personal journey that never stops. If you live up to that, you will lead a life that is richer in every way. As was pointed out by Cameron, I worked to promote peace in Northern Ireland for several years. So let me end with the words of a traditional Irish refrain. May neighbors respect you, may trouble neglect you, may the angels protect you, and may heaven accept you. Thank you, and Godspeed to the class of 2016.